The Truly Human Experiments Part 2. Deadly Secrets of the Soviet Poison Lab. The needle slips in quietly. A cup of tea grows cold. A man who spoke too loudly yesterday doesn't wake up today. In the early Soviet Union, death didn't always arrive with a gunshot. Sometimes it came softer, invisible, clinical, perfect. Poison became the state's silent eraser, a tool that left no headlines, no riots, no questions. Officially, the deaths were unfortunate. Unofficially, whispers spread like frost. They got another one. But how do you master something so precise, so undetectable? The answer is as cold as it sounds: you practice on the living. In 1921, before the Soviet Union even had a name, a laboratory appeared in the shadows. They called it the CAM, an intelligence poison lab hidden from maps and memory. Behind locked doors, Soviet scientists began a single, chilling mission: to create the perfect poison. One that couldn't be seen, tasted, smelled, or traced. One that turned murder into mystery. And they needed test subjects. The Gulag labor camps became their supply line. Thousands of prisoners, accused of nothing more than a careless word or a misstep, were drawn into experiments they didn't understand. They were told they were receiving medicine. They weren't. Ricin tore through their insides. Cyanide triggered seizures and stopped hearts mid-beat. Curare paralyzed them slowly, muscle by muscle, until breathing became impossible. The scientists watched, taking meticulous notes, refining the formulas. One prisoner wrote home the night before, promising he'd survive the winter. He never finished the sentence. From the state's perspective, it worked perfectly. Cyanide mists, poisons mimicking heart attacks, assassinations disguised as misfortune, methods became mechanical, efficient, invisible. But the darkest creation was C2, carmine choline chloride. Liquid despair. It didn't scream. It didn't convulse. Victims simply grew weak, faded quietly, and died within 15 minutes. Calm. Silent. Gone. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, officials claimed the CAM was shut down. Abandoned. Forgotten. Yet in a world where silence was once perfected into science, where human lives became data points, one question lingers in the quiet. Did it ever really end, or did it just learn to disappear even better? Study of Guatemalan syphilis. You may have heard the name before, spoken softly in classrooms or buried in footnotes of history. Tuskegee. An experiment that began in 1932, where nearly 400 African American men with syphilis were watched instead of treated. Even when penicillin became a cure, it was deliberately withheld. The disease was allowed to run its course. Bodies failed. Families suffered. Many never lived to know why. But Tuskegee was not the end of the story. It was a rehearsal. In the years just after World War II, from 1946 to 1948, American researchers crossed borders and carried their work into Guatemala. With approval from government officials, they entered hospitals, prisons, psychiatric institutions, and orphanages. More than 5,000 people were drawn into the experiment. Many were poor. Many were powerless. Most never gave informed consent. Approximately 1,300 individuals, some as young as 10 years old, were deliberately exposed to syphilis or gonorrhea, despite being healthy when the study began. The methods were chilling in their calm precision. Bacteria were introduced directly into open wounds. Others were exposed through sexual contact with sex workers who had been deliberately infected and compensated as part of the study. In official reports, the researchers documented these techniques not with acknowledgement of harm, but with clinical efficiency. Overseeing it all was Dr. John C. Cutler. His records were incomplete, deliberately vague, and often missing entirely. Historians believe this silence was intentional. He understood the gravity of what he was doing, and he understood how the full truth would be received if exposed. One patient, a woman known only as Berta, stands out in the surviving notes. In early 1948, while hospitalized for psychiatric care, she was injected with syphilis without her knowledge or consent. Weeks later, her body began to break down. Lesions spread. Secondary infections followed. Treatment was repeatedly delayed. By August, Dr. Cutler documented that she appeared close to death, though he did not record his reasoning. That same day, material from another infected patient was deliberately introduced into Berta's eyes and genital tissue. She was reinfected. Her eyes filled with pus. She began hemorrhaging. On August 27, 1948, Berta died. The experiment was ostensibly designed to test whether penicillin could prevent sexually transmitted diseases. Yet no published scientific results ever emerged. No peer-reviewed breakthroughs. No medical advancement. After years of human suffering, there was nothing to justify the cost. Decades passed. Limited medical treatment was eventually offered to surviving victims, though many never received it. And it was not until 2010, more than 60 years after the experiment ended, that the United States government issued a formal apology to Guatemala and the survivors. These experiments, along with Tuskegee and others like them, became catalysts for change. They led directly to the establishment of the Belmont Report, institutional review boards, informed consent requirements, and modern medical ethics standards that now protect human subjects from exploitation. Their suffering became the foundation for safeguards that benefit everyone. But the silence had already done its work. The names were forgotten. The faces were erased. The voices were lost. We tell this story not to dwell in darkness, but to remember. To ensure that power is never again used to betray the powerless. To demand that science serves humanity, not the other way around. Their stories demand to be heard. If this video deserves to be seen by millions, like it, share it with everyone you know, and subscribe. YouTube is suppressing this content. Help us reach people who need to know.